The orbital scrapyard of Kepler 442b was not a place for dreams. It was a graveyard, endless in the dark, where the husks of warships drifted in silence. Hulks of metal, bones of empires, and shattered promises spun lazily in the planet's shadow. The stars glimmered beyond, cold and distant, watching the wreckage circle forever like carrion birds. Adnan loved it here. He sat cross-legged on a slab of torn hull plating, grease stains on his hands, a neural interface strapped across his forehead. In front of him floated the fractured remains of a Zephyrian battle cruiser. Its black armor was scorched, its crystalline veins flickering with half-dead light. The galaxy had once feared this class of ship. Now under his hands it was nothing more than salvage. His fingers moved with slow, careful rhythm. Wires twitched, circuits bled faint sparks, and a crystalline implant hummed angrily in his grip. Adnan muttered to himself, "Another mine crown, damn parasites never learned." The Zephyrians had ruled this sector for centuries, enslaving entire civilizations with their neural dominance devices. Entire species bent like reeds under invisible pressure, their will stolen, their voices erased. All except humans. Humans were different. Their chaotic, unpredictable thought patterns, the messiness of their emotions, made them immune to Zephyrian control. What the aliens had called a flaw, humans had turned into a weapon. It was humanity who had broken the empire, shattering the chains of dozens of worlds. But Adnan was no soldier, not anymore. He was a mechanic, a quiet man with calloused palms and haunted eyes. Wars might be fought with fleets, but they were won by people who refused to stop fixing broken things. And Adnan had never stopped. A hiss of servos broke the silence. He looked up. Nihil was approaching across the floating scaffolds. The light of Kepler 442b's sun caught her in pieces, the curve of her jaw, the gleam of her cybernetic arm, the soft whir of her implants. Half her face was polished alloy, a lattice of glowing lines running from cheekbone to jaw. Her left arm, entirely mechanical, ended in a hand of segmented chrome. The other half was human, tired eyes, dark hair tied back, and a faint scar running along her brow. She was beautiful, though not in the way most imagined beauty. She was something more, a fusion of resilience and design, a survivor shaped by war and her own relentless will. "Any luck with the dragon's core?" she asked, her voice carrying over the hum of power nodes. She lowered herself onto the plating beside him, her weight making the old metal groan. Adnan didn't answer right away. He glanced past her, toward the massive shape at the center of their workshop. A war drake. 40 meters of living alloy and engineered flesh, secured in containment fields that shimmered faintly around its serpentine body. Its scales were black-silver, its wings folded tight, its tail coiled like a whip. Zephyrian science had built monsters like this, biomechanical horrors bred for war, fused with ancient intelligence and bound by mine crowns. This one had drifted into the scrapyard weeks ago, abandoned after the final collapse of the Empire. Dead, or so they had thought. "The neural crown's still active," Adnan said finally. He ran a thumb over the crystalline implant, watching the glow pulse in time with his heartbeat. "Whatever they locked into that thing's mind, it's still fighting. I can feel it pushing against the field." Nihil's cybernetic eye flickered, running invisible scans. Patterns spiraled across the lens. "It's not just alive," she said. Her voice had an edge now. "It's learning, adapting." Adnan opened his mouth to reply, then froze. The war drake lifted its head. Slowly, deliberately, as if it had been listening the whole time. Its molten gold eyes ignited with static, glowing like suns. And then a voice filled the workshop, not through sound, but through their implants, slipping into the space behind their thoughts. "Little humans." Adnan's chest tightened. The voice was vast, deep, soaked with contempt. "You cannot hold me. I am Vorak, the endless architect, the fire that broke 1,000 worlds. Release me, and I will grant you the mercy of swift death." The containment field shivered as the drake flexed against it. Sparks scattered like fireflies. Nihil stepped forward, her cybernetic hand alive with arcs of blue energy. She stood tall, her human side trembling, her machine side unyielding. "Take me instead," she said. Her voice was low, steady. "I know what you are. You're not just beast. You're a fusion, consciousness, and control tech. You need a host. My cybernetics are compatible." Adnan's blood went cold. "Nihil, no." The dragon's eyes narrowed, static rippling brighter. "Interesting," it murmured. "You would offer yourself for this scrap picker." He's not just a scrap picker, Nihil shot back, her artificial fingers clenched, sparks dancing at the knuckles. He's the one who cracked your empire. He's the reason you fell. The mechanic who turned your own mind crowns into freedom keys. He's why your slaves are free. The dragon's golden gaze shifted, pinning Adnan in place. You, it whispered, a simple mechanic. Adnan said nothing. He bent his head back to the implant, fingers moving with stubborn rhythm, tracing quantum pathways others could not see. He had learned long ago that humanity's greatest strength was not in words or weapons. It was in the refusal to give up, in the ability to build, adapt, and endure, even in the face of gods and monsters. Nihil's breath caught. She recognized that silence. She had seen it before when Adnan was lost in the flow of creation, when he saw patterns invisible to others, when nothing else existed but the work. He won't answer you, she whispered, her voice trembling, because he's not finished yet. The containment field flickered again, harder this time. Metal groaned, the drake's massive body arched, scales sparking against the field. And then, the implant in Adnan's hands pulsed like a beating heart. Vorak froze, its golden eyes widened. What are you doing? Adnan's lips moved, soft, steady. Not taking one, not choosing, taking both. He pressed the implant to his own temple. Needles of light drove into his skull. And the world shattered. Adnan's scream never left his throat. The moment the needles of the implant pierced his flesh, the scrapyard vanished. His breath caught in a rush of voices, visions, and unbearable light. His mind expanded outward in a cascade of color, his body dissolving into something far larger. The first presence was a storm, vast, ancient, hunger and pride burning like suns, Vorak. The war drake's intelligence struck against him, endless memories of firestorms and shattered worlds, a predator consciousness honed for dominance. It reached for him, ready to consume. The second presence was sharper, cleaner, a stream of data threaded with warmth. Nihil. Her half-human, half-machine essence pulsed with steady courage. Her cybernetic augmentations gave her thoughts clarity, but her humanity gave them fire. And at the center, fragile yet unyielding, was Adnan. A mechanic, not a warrior. Calloused palms, grease-stained nails, eyes that had seen too many broken things. He should have been swept away. But instead, he found the balance point between them. The connection solidified into a triangle. Adnan could feel Vorak's immense strength pressing down on him like the weight of a planet. He could feel Nihil's while holding the line beside him, sparks of trust flowing like currents. And he realized, if he aligned them just right, their powers didn't destroy. They resonated. Impossible, Vorak whispered in the void, its voice trembling with confusion. You are not resisting, you are weaving. That's what humans do, Nihil's voice cut through the storm, sharp and alive. Her essence flickered with fierce loyalty. We don't conquer, we connect, we build. Adnan didn't speak, he focused. The implant was no longer a crown of domination, it was a bridge. His fingers had reshaped its quantum pathways in silence, turning a weapon of control into a channel of union. Through him, Vorak's fire, Nihil's steel, and his own human stubbornness began to braid together. The war drake recoiled, its mind flooded with something alien. Not submission, not fear, belonging. It had never known such a thing. The scrapyard returned. Adnan collapsed forward, catching himself on shaking hands. Blood trickled from his temple where the implant burned like a molten brand. The containment field flickered erratically, arcs of lightning dancing across the drake's massive body. Vorak stirred, but not with fury. Its wings unfolded slowly, scales shifting like rivers of metal. Its golden eyes blazed, but behind them was something new. Hesitation. You are inside me, the drake's voice murmured through their shared link. Not as prey, not as master, you are included. Nihil dropped to one knee beside Adnan, her chrome hand bracing his shoulder. Adnan, talk to me, stay with me. He looked up at her, his vision swimming. It's working, we're not separate, we're one, you me it. Vorak's laughter rumbled in their skulls like an earthquake. Madness, you stitch together fire, flesh, and machine. This cannot hold. Maybe not, Adnan whispered, teeth gritted. But maybe it doesn't have to, maybe it just needs to last long enough. A shiver ran through the scrapyard. The stars themselves seemed to tremble as distant signals flared. Beyond Kepler 442b, other Zephyrian war machines were stirring. Sentinels, drones, behemoths. The fall of the Empire had left them wandering, half-feral, bound to recall signals like ghosts to a beacon. And Vorak's awakening had called to them. Through the link, Adnan felt them, a tide of metal and fury converging on their location. "They're coming," Nihil said, her mechanical eye flickering with threat warnings. She pulled Adnan upright, her hand strong as steel. "The whole scrapyard's about to wake." Vorak's serpentine body shifted against the failing containment field. "They will come to reclaim me, to drag me back into the endless war. I will not be chained again." Its voice thundered inside them. "If you stand in their way, you will burn with me." Adnan steadied himself, his breath ragged but firm. "Then we don't stand in the way, we make a new way." Vorak's gaze snapped toward him, molten eyes narrowing. "You would defy the old order. Even in ruin, it is stronger than you." Adnan wiped the blood from his temple with the back of his hand. "That's the thing about humans. We don't care how strong you are, we just care how much we can fix before the end." Nihil's lips curved in the faintest smile. Even now, at the edge of madness, he spoke like a mechanic. The scrapyard shuddered as warning alarms blared across the derelicts. Distant shadows moved in formation, dozens of war drones, their red eyes flickering in the void. The first of them broke orbit, engines roaring, weapons priming. Nihil turned to Adnan. "So what's the plan, genius?" Adnan glanced at Vorak, then at her, the implant burning bright at his temple. His voice was steady now, calm in the storm. "We build right here, right now, out of us three." Vorak's golden eyes flared, a storm of fire and static. For the first time in centuries, the war drake's voice carried not contempt but curiosity. "Show me human, show me what your kind calls impossible." The scrapyard lit up with incoming fire. And the mechanic, the cyborg, and the dragon braced for war. The scrapyard screamed to life. Engines roared in the void. Broken cruisers and shattered frigates spun slowly as new shadows poured across the orbital field. Zephyrian drones, relics of a dead empire, descended like vultures. Their hulls gleamed with faint crystalline veins, red optics burning against the stars. Adnan felt them before he saw them. The neural link hummed with static, Vorak's vast awareness brushing against the incoming swarm. Through the drake's senses, he tasted the drone's hunger, a blind, mechanical urge to recover what belonged to their masters. They had smelled the beacon. They were coming for their lost weapon. Vorak's serpentine body coiled inside the containment field, scales shimmering like liquid steel. "They come for me," the drake growled, its voice inside their skulls. "They will tear you apart to reclaim their kin." Nihil's cybernetic eye scanned the incoming wave. Numbers flickered across her lens, too many ships, too many weapons. Her chrome hand flexed, buzzing with restrained power. If they breached the scrapyard, we're finished. Adnan's heartbeat thundered in his ears. Fear threatened to lock his chest, but he forced his breath slow. He was no soldier anymore, but he knew machines. Machines had flaws. Machines could be bent. "We don't need to fight them all," he said, his voice low, steady. "We just need to fight smarter." Vorak's golden eyes blazed. "Smarter will not stop fire and steel." "Then smarter will turn fire and steel," Adnan shot back. The first drone broke through the haze of debris. It was a skeletal fighter, wings stretched wide with crystalline ridges that pulsed with energy. Its weapons charged, targeting the containment field around Vorak. The blast came like thunder. A streak of plasma hammered the field, making it ripple and buckle. Sparks cascaded down the scaffolding where Adnan and Nihil stood. Adnan flinched, shielding his eyes, while Vorak's massive form writhed inside the weakening prison. "Drop the field," Nihil shouted over the roar. "It's draining power we need to fight." Adnan's gut clenched. "If I drop it." Vorak lunged against the barrier, its voice slamming into their minds like a hammer. "Release me, human, or we all die here." Another blast struck. The field shrieked, faltering. Adnan gritted his teeth. His trembling hand slammed a control node. The containment field collapsed. Vorak surged free. The war drake uncoiled like a storm unleashed. Its wings snapped open, metal and flesh entwined, scattering debris with the force of the motion. A roar thundered from its throat, not through air, but through the minds of everything listening. Even the drones faltered, their red eyes flickering at the sound of their master reborn. Adnan staggered as the link jolted. Vorak's fury was overwhelming, centuries of chained rage pouring through him. He clutched at his temple, fighting to keep himself from being drowned. Adnan, Nihil grabbed his shoulder, her chrome fingers digging in. Don't let it take you. Through the storm of anger and fire, Adnan forced his voice into the link. Not rage, not chains, you're free now. Fight with us not as their weapon, but as something new. For a moment he felt Vorak hesitate. Confusion. The great beast's instincts screamed to burn, to dominate, to destroy. But the link was not one way. Through Adnan's mind, Vorak felt something it had never known before, determination that did not bend. A will that adapted rather than broke. The drake's roar shifted. No longer fury, something closer to challenge. And then it struck. Vorak launched into the swarm, wings slashing like blades. Plasma fire poured from the drones, but the drake twisted through it with impossible grace, its scales shimmering with adaptive shielding. A single swipe of its tail shattered 3 fighters at once. Its jaws clamped down on a larger drone, crushing its core into shards. Nihil's mechanical arm snapped open, releasing a surge of energy bolts that ripped through 2 drones trying to flank them. She moved like lightning, her cybernetic limbs synced with her human instincts, her body bridging precision and chaos. Adnan scrambled across the scaffolding, fingers flying across jury-rigged consoles. He rerouted scavenged power nodes, hijacked dormant ship systems, and turned dead turrets into sputtering defenses. The scrapyard itself came alive under his hands, a broken graveyard turned into a barricade. Together they pushed back the swarm. But the drones kept coming. Through the link, Adnan felt the pull of something larger, a presence at the edge of the system, not just drones, something far worse. Vorak felt it too. The drake's wings froze mid-beat, its golden eyes blazing. No, not them, not here. What is it? Nihil demanded, firing a bolt into the chest of another drone. Vorak's voice trembled with something Adnan had never imagined he would hear from such a creature. Fear. An overseer. Adnan's blood ran cold. He knew the stories. The overseers were the Zephyrians' ultimate weapons, titans of metal and crystal, vast warships fused with singular minds, each capable of directing fleets with a thought. They had broken empires, erased worlds. And one was coming for them. The link surged with Vorak's dread. It will not come to reclaim me. It will come to erase me. I was their greatest weapon. If I am unbound, I am their greatest threat. Nihil's eye flickered with new readings, her voice tight. ETA, less than an hour. Adnan's chest heaved. His hands were still on the console, trembling but steady. He looked at Vorak, then at Nihil. Then we've got 1 hour, he said. 1 hour to do what humans always do best. Nihil frowned, panting. And what's that? Adnan's lips curved into a grim smile. Build something they never see coming. Above them, the scrapyard burned as the overseer's shadow fell across Kepler 442b. The scrapyard had become a battlefield of shadows and fire. Shards of twisted metal glinted under the pale light of Kepler 442b's twin suns, throwing fractured reflections across Vorak's armored scales. The drones' bodies littered the ground, crushed and sparking, but Adnan knew better than to count them as victories. They were merely a prelude. Nihil's cybernetic limbs whirred as she adjusted power conduits and recalibrated weaponry scavenged from the dead drones. Sparks flew across her metal fingers as she typed furiously into a jury-rigged console. Adnan crouched over the main terminal, sweat running down his brow despite the cool alien air. Every system was a patchwork of dead circuits, jury-rigged turrets, and scavenged plasma relays. One misstep, one miscalculation, and they'd be torn apart before the overseer even arrived. Vorak shifted its massive body, wings folding inward like a living cathedral. The dragon's tail coiled around a broken cruiser's hull, sending a shudder through the metal. Its golden eyes were focused, yet beneath the surface, a tension thrummed like a living drum. The drake could feel the approach of the overseer, an entity vast and ancient, its presence pressing down like a storm cloud over their minds. They'll be here soon, Vorak's voice echoed in Adnan's mind, low and vibrating. Their arrival will shred your fragile constructions if you are not ready. Adnan exhaled, forcing calm. We don't have fragile, we've got clever, that's what we've got. Nihil shot him a glance, one cybernetic eye flickering with numbers. Clever won't matter if the overseer thinks 10 steps ahead. I've studied the schematics of these things, one misfire, one exposed conduit, and we're done. Adnan's hands didn't stop. Then we make it look like we're following the rules. He began to direct Vorak through the scrapyard's corridors, weaving them through debris and hollowed-out cruisers to form a network of traps. Plasma turrets lay hidden behind twisted hulls. Energy conduits hummed in silent anticipation. Every scrap of metal became a shield, a decoy, a weapon. Vorak's massive head dipped low. I do not understand your planning. It is unlike anything I have known. You think like a predator. Adnan chuckled, though his chest ached. Predator? No, humans survive by seeing what's not obvious, by taking what's broken and turning it into what's needed. They worked in silence for hours, the distant horizon faintly glowing as the twin suns dipped toward Kepler 442b's horizon. The atmosphere shifted, charged with the approaching storm. In the distance, a faint shimmer began to coalesce, a ripple through space itself, like the world bending under invisible weight. Nihil froze, scanning the sensors. It's here. The Overseer arrived not with fanfare, but with a crushing presence. Its form emerged slowly from the haze of space, a colossal fusion of crystalline armor, thrumming with energy. Vast wings unfurled, their edges cutting through the vacuum like blades. Its eyes, or whatever counted as eyes, glowed with the certainty of an entity that had never lost. Adnan felt it before he saw it. Pressure slammed into his chest, rattling his bones. His fingers gripped the console, knuckles white. Nihil, it's enormous. Vorak's roar answered it, vibrating across the scrapyard, across metal and mind alike. The Drake surged forward, each wingbeat sending shockwaves through the debris-laden field. Do not let it intimidate you, human. They have known fear. I have known chains. We are free, we are prepared. Adnan's mind raced. He knew they couldn't face it head-on. The Overseer was too large, too intelligent, too fast. But clever could win battles giants thought were theirs by birthright. Here's the plan, he said, voice low. We lure it into the scrapyard's heart, the central hub. Every broken turret, every twisted hull, every plasma relay, we turn them into bait. Then we make it fight our way. Nihil's head tilted, metal fingers tapping a rhythm against her console. And Vorak. You fly, Adnan said. You strike when I signal. You're not just a weapon, you're the pivot. The Overseer hasn't met anything like you, not really. Vorak's golden eyes gleamed with anticipation. I am the storm, then. The first strike came almost immediately. From its wings, the Overseer unleashed a pulse of crystalline energy, ripping through the outer barricades of the scrapyard. Sparks rained down, metal twisted, and debris became shrapnel. Adnan dove for the console, activating emergency relays. Turrets whirred to life, plasma beams carving arcs of destruction through the first wave of incoming drones, which had accompanied the Overseer. Nihil's limbs moved with uncanny precision, bolts of energy tearing apart the smaller attackers before they could threaten Vorak. Now, Adnan shouted, fingers slamming the final key. Vorak exploded into motion, wings slicing through the air with terrifying speed. It darted toward the Overseer, its tail smashing into one of the massive wings. Sparks and energy flared as the collision sent shockwaves across the scrapyard. The Overseer reeled, but it was patient, calculating, ancient. It swung its massive body in a fluid motion, sending a wave of energy across the field. Debris flew in all directions. Adnan barely shielded his eyes. Through the chaos, Nihil's voice rang out in his mind, calm but fierce. We have one shot at this. Every turret, every trap, now or never. Adnan's hands flew over the console, rerouting energy, redirecting plasma flows, and triggering explosive relays. Each movement was calculated, precise, a dance between life and death. Vorak weaved through the storm, striking the Overseer at angles it hadn't anticipated. The Drake's scales absorbed bursts of energy, adapting instantly to the crystalline attacks. Its roar echoed in their minds, a call to defiance, to survival, to ingenuity. And then the Overseer paused. It had realized the scrapyard was no ordinary battlefield. Every scrap, every turret, every maneuver, it was being manipulated. It was being baited. Adnan's heart pounded. They were closer than ever, but the Overseer was no fool. Its eyes, glowing like molten crystal, fixed on Vorak and then on Adnan and Nihil. It will strike at the source, Vorak warned in their minds. And then the unthinkable happened. A colossal beam of energy slashed toward the central hub, toward the consoles, toward Adnan. Nihil screamed, diving into the way of the blast, metallic limbs flaring to shield him. Sparks exploded across the hub. Alarms screamed. Adnan slammed his hands to the console, praying for the systems to hold. Vorak's roar split the air as it barreled between the beam and the humans, scales flaring with energy absorption. The Drake's body twisted, absorbing the full force, but every muscle screamed in pain. Adnan looked at Vorak, fear and admiration warring in his chest. "Hold on, old friend, just a little longer." Nihil's eyes flickered with panic. "We might not have that long." The overseer hovered, massive and patient, its presence smothering. And then, as Adnan realized the beam had not destroyed the hub, but instead powered something new, a mechanism he had set up, he knew their gamble had worked. The beam triggered the traps, sending a chain reaction through the scrapyard. Plasma relays overloaded, turrets fired autonomously, and metal wreckage erupted in controlled chaos. The overseer's massive body was caught off guard. Sparks flew from its crystalline hull. It roared, a sound that shook the very foundations of Kepler 442b's scrapyard. Adnan grinned through sweat and fear. "Clever, remember." Vorak's mind hummed with exhilaration and pain. "Clever indeed, human, we are something new." But even as the chain reaction wreaked havoc, a part of Adnan's mind knew this was only the beginning. Something deep within the overseer stirred, something it had not revealed yet, something older than their ingenuity, older than their fear. And from the shadow of the scrapyard's highest crane, a glowing signal pulsed, silent, sinister. Adnan's blood ran cold. It was calling reinforcements. The scrapyard's night descended rapidly under Kepler 442b's twin moons, but the darkness offered no comfort. Sparks still danced across twisted metal, and the smell of scorched circuitry hung thick in the air. Adnan's chest heaved as he stared at the glowing signal poolsing atop the central crane. Whatever it had called, it was coming. Nihil's cybernetic eye reflected the distant shimmer of incoming vessels, smaller, sleeker drones, swarming like a swarm of mechanical hornets. "They're faster than the first wave," she muttered, recalculating trajectories. "They'll hit before we can reposition the defenses." Vorak shifted, wings folding against its body, scales rattling with tension. "Do not underestimate them. Each one carries death in its frame." Adnan crouched beside Nihil, adjusting the relay matrix. "Then we make sure every single one of them regrets it." His voice was calm, but his hands shook with the adrenaline of preparation. The drones arrived silently, slipping through the shadows like predators of metal. Their glowing cores illuminated the night, a cold, merciless light. They struck in perfect synchronization, laser-tipped appendages carving through debris, dismantling traps before they could activate. Vorak roared, launching into the air, wings flaring with controlled fury. Its tail swept like a pendulum, knocking drones into walls and sparks into the sky. Yet for everyone it destroyed, two more seemed to appear. Adnan's mind raced. He had calculated everything, turret arcs, plasma relay timings, Vorak's flight patterns, but the reinforcements were relentless. He had never seen efficiency like this, not even in the factories back on Earth. Every drone seemed connected to a singular will, an intelligence that learned faster than they could adapt. Nihil's limbs moved in a blur, manipulating control panels, rerouting power and firing emergency relays. Her metallic fingers were streaks of silver, sparks arcing with every precise motion. "They're mapping our tactics," she warned. "We need something unpredictable." Adnan's eyes flicked to Vorak. The dragon's massive body sliced through the swarm, scales glinting, claws tearing through drones as if they were paper. "Then we become unpredictable." He tapped a sequence on the console. Hidden plasma mines, long dormant and forgotten among the scrapyard's debris, lit up with energy. Turrets shifted unpredictably, firing in chaotic arcs designed to confuse the drone's sensors. Vorak's mind hummed with exhilaration. "You think like a storm, human. A wild, destructive storm." The first wave of reinforcements collided with their defenses, exploding in fire and sparks. Yet even in victory, Adnan could see it, the overseer observing, calculating, learning. Every move they made, every trap triggered, every drone destroyed was catalogued. A low vibration ran through the ground. The overseer had arrived in full form. Its massive shadow eclipsed the scrapyard, wings extending like the hulls of titanic ships. Its crystalline body shimmered with lethal energy. Vorak let out a deafening roar, wings propelling it into the air, claws aiming for the overseer's flank. Sparks erupted as the massive body collided with the dragon's strikes. The ground shook, sending waves of debris outward. Adnan and Nihil scrambled to maintain control of the relay network. Plasma bolts flew in all directions, chunks of metal shredded in midair, and energy arcs danced across the scrapyard like lightning in a storm. Nihil's voice rang sharp, precise. Adnan, it's focusing on Vorak now. If we lose the dragon, we lose everything. Adnan's fingers flew over the console. Not yet. We still have one advantage. He initiated the final contingency, a sequence of collapsing energy barriers designed to corral the Overseer into the scrapyard's central hub. Vorak twisted midair, catching a surge of energy from Adnan's console. Its golden eyes met his, understanding flashing between them. I will follow your lead, human. The Overseer's gaze locked onto them, massive crystalline eyes narrowing. With a sudden burst, it struck, wings whipping in a devastating arc. The impact shattered part of the scrapyard's outer defenses, throwing Vorak off course and sending a shockwave through the hub. Adnan gritted his teeth, voice tight. Hold on, old friend, just a little longer. Nihil's limbs flared, firing precise bursts to redirect drones into the collapsing corridors. Sparks flew, a chorus of destruction echoing in the scrapyard. She glanced at Adnan, eyes wide with urgency. We might not make it through this if the Overseer breaks free. Vorak dove, tail lashing, claws raking across the Overseer's crystalline plating. A screech, deep, resonant, and almost human in its intensity, filled the air as the two massive beings collided midair. The impact sent a shockwave across the scrapyard, hurling debris like missiles. Adnan slammed the console's main relay, activating the final trap. Plasma conduits flared, a lattice of energy bars igniting in precise formation. The Overseer stumbled, momentarily stunned, wings faltering. For a fleeting second, silence fell over the scrapyard. Sparks rained from overhead debris, the smell of scorched metal thick in the air. Vorak hovered, wings trembling but ready, its massive body catching the next assault. Then the Overseer roared, a sound that vibrated through the ground, through Adnan's chest, through the very metal and flesh around him. And from the shadows, something moved. Not a drone, not a trap. Something alive, massive, and faster than anything they had seen before. The pulse of energy from its core slammed into the scrapyard, knocking consoles offline and sending Adnan sprawling. Sparks licked his skin, metal fragments embedding into his arms and chest. Nihil screamed, limbs flaring defensively, but even she couldn't stop it. Vorak's roar was defiant, but the Drake's golden eyes widened in horror. It is not just the Overseer, something else is coming. A monstrous shape emerged from the darkness, sleek, metallic, yet organic, moving with a terrifying fluidity. It was alive, intelligent, and designed for destruction. Its many limbs radiated energy, and its eyes, cold, calculating, fixed on Adnan, Nihil, and Vorak. Adnan pushed himself up, blood running into his eyes, but his mind was sharp. Nihil, this is bigger than we thought, much bigger. Nihil's cybernetic eye blinked rapidly. We can't hold them both, not without a miracle. Vorak's tail lashed, wings flaring, but even its massive form seemed small against the approaching menace. And then, in the midst of chaos, a faint, eerie sound resonated across the scrapyard. A voice, alien yet melodic, whispering words that chilled their bones. Welcome to the true heart of Kepler 442b. Adnan froze, realization dawning. The Overseer had been the beginning, but this was the core, and it had already won. The scrapyard had become unrecognizable. Fires burned in twisted heaps of metal, smoke coiling like serpents through the shattered framework of old transport vessels. Sparks rained from broken pylons, and the acrid scent of scorched circuitry mixed with ozone. Amidst the chaos, Adnan pushed himself up, muscles screaming, every breath tasting of iron and dust. Vorak hovered above, wings trembling but eyes fixed on the monstrous new threat. Its body was a hybrid of living tissue and cybernetic implants, moving with predatory grace. Unlike the drones or the Overseer, this thing was alive in the most terrifying sense, capable of independent thought, anticipation, and ruthless adaptation. Nihil's cybernetic limbs moved frantically, rerouting power from damaged turrets and relays to stabilize what little defense remained. Sparks arced across her metallic fingers, and her voice cracked through the static of the intercom. Adnan, it's synchronizing with the Overseer. Their systems are connected. We can't separate them. Adnan swallowed, heart hammering. He could see the faint glow emanating from the core of the creature, a pulsating light that seemed to echo the planet's heartbeat. Kepler 442b was alive, he realized, and this thing was its sentinel. A dragon, a machine, a guardian, all in one terrifying package. Vorak growled low, a rumble of anticipation and fury. We cannot fight it directly, not yet, but it can be tricked. Its mind linked briefly with Adnan's in instinctual communication, the human sensing the dragon's thought. Chaos can be used, precision can be used, the storm can be directed. Adnan's gaze swept the scrapyard. Amid the wreckage, the old plasma conduits hummed faintly. Broken turrets still held power, dormant traps lay partially functional, and a lattice of reactive metal barriers could be rerouted. Vorak, he muttered, voice low. We use the environment, we lead it into the maze we know. Nihal's eyes widened. Are you insane? That thing moves faster than any known predator. It can predict our every move. You want to bait it. Adnan nodded, wiping blood from a cut across his forehead. Not bait. We make it think it's in control, then we control the battlefield. Vorak's wings flared, lifting them high above the ground. The dragon dove, tail sweeping a row of drones into a pile of molten metal, drawing the monstrous hybrid's attention. Sparks and debris flew as it responded, its massive limbs cutting through anything in its path. Adnan and Nihal sprinted through the debris, activating the first of the plasma barriers. The energy lattice ignited, forming narrow corridors of light. The hybrid hesitated, calculating, its glowing eyes scanning the maze. It stepped forward cautiously, every movement measured. Perfect, Adnan muttered. Now we push it further. Vorak roared, striking from above. The hybrid followed instinctively, charging into the corridor, its bulk smashing against the plasma walls. Sparks flew, metal screamed, and the corridors shimmered with energy. But each strike pushed it deeper into the labyrinth they had set. Nihal's voice came sharp, trembling with focus. It's adapting. Its core energy is synchronizing with the lattice. If we misstep, the entire scrapyard could collapse. Adnan gritted his teeth. Then we don't misstep. He sprinted to the main relay hub, fingers flying across the console, rerouting power to maintain the corridors. The maze pulsed with light, drawing the hybrid closer to the center, closer to the old core reactor buried beneath the scrapyard's foundation. Vorak dove again, claws raking across the hybrid's plating. Sparks flew, metal screeched, and the hybrid staggered, but it adapted instantly, wings whipping, limbs striking with devastating precision. It was intelligent, adaptive, but slow enough for them to manipulate. Adnan wiped blood from his brow, focusing. He knew the hybrid's design wasn't natural. It was a product of engineering combined with instinct. If they could disrupt that connection, make it question its own calculations, they might gain a sliver of advantage. He pressed a sequence into the relay hub. Plasma conduits pulsed violently, energy arcs creating confusion patterns. The hybrid faltered, sensors whirring, limbs retracting as if unsure which attack to commit to. Vorak roared in triumph, striking with renewed ferocity. But then a new sound filled the scrapyard, deep, resonant, and unnatural. A voice, mechanical and organic, vibrated through the ground. Human mechanic, you cannot survive the core. Adnan froze, feeling a chill run down his spine. Nihal's cybernetic eye flickered rapidly. It's communicating directly through the planetary network. Kepler 442b itself is speaking. Vorak growled, wings beating furiously. Then we must speak back, not with words but with action. Adnan's mind raced. There was only one chance. If they could lure the hybrid into the old reactor chamber, into the core beneath the scrapyard, they could trigger an overload. The energy could disable the hybrid, possibly neutralize the overseer, but the risk was enormous. One miscalculation and the entire planet could be unstable. Nihal's limbs glowed, signaling agreement. I can amplify the conduit pulses, redirect the energy, but you need to get it into the chamber alive. We can't destroy it from the outside. Adnan nodded. Vorak, it's your turn. Draw it in, lead it to the core. Vorak roared, wings slicing the air, scales shimmering in the light of the plasma corridors. The hybrid roared back, massive limbs smashing debris, sparks flying. It charged after Vorak, pursuing the dragon deeper into the maze, exactly as Adnan had calculated. The human sprinted to the last control console, heart hammering. He activated the final sequence, energy barriers flaring, corridors shifting. The hybrid roared, trapped but still resisting, its core energy flickering uncertainly. Nihal's voice rang out, precise and urgent. Almost there, just a few more meters. Vorak flared wings, dodging a crushing blow, and swung sharply, leading the hybrid straight into the old reactor chamber. The massive doors slammed shut behind them, energy conduits sealing. Sparks shot into the air, and the ground vibrated as the chamber began to pulse with contained power. Adnan stumbled to the doorway, wiping blood and sweat from his face. "It's inside. Now we see if this works." The hybrid's roar filled the chamber, reverberating through the scrapyard like a storm. Lights flickered, metal groaned, and the energy barriers hummed with unstable resonance. Nihil's fingers flew across the console, amplifying pulses, redirecting flows, every second a battle against catastrophe. Vorak's wings folded against its sides, tail lashing, eyes fixed on the hybrid, ready for the moment of chaos. Sparks flew, the chamber shuddered, and for a heartbeat, silence descended. Then the hybrid's core flickered, uncertainty rippling through its movements. It hesitated, sensors recalibrating, movements jerky, as if it questioned every decision. The labyrinth, the pulses, Vorak's relentless strikes, it was all outside its control. Adnan exhaled sharply. "It's working, we can destabilize it." But from deep within the hybrid, a voice resonated again, mechanical and sinister. "You think you can contain me, human? Kepler 442b chooses its own guardians." A shockwave erupted, knocking Adnan and Nihil off their feet. Sparks and energy arcs danced wildly as the hybrid struggled against the chamber. Vorak roared, clawing at the walls, forcing the creature further into the containment sequence. Adnan's fingers flew across the console, sweat and blood blurring his vision. Come on, stabilize it, just a little more." The hybrid's roar became a scream, metallic and organic, fused into a sound that shook the very ground. And then, in a sudden flash of blinding light, the energy surged, the containment lattice flaring to full intensity. Silence. Vorak hovered, wings spread wide, scales gleaming. The hybrid slumped, contained but alive, its sensors flickering in confusion. Nihil exhaled, collapsing against the console, exhausted. Adnan straightened, chest heaving, looking at the creature. "We did it for now." But even as they celebrated, the ground shivered faintly beneath their feet. Kepler 442b had more secrets, and they had only scratched the surface. Something else waiting. The chamber was silent now, save for the hum of the containment lattice. Sparks rained softly over the hybrid's massive form, casting jagged shadows against the walls. Vorak hovered nearby, wings twitching in restless vigilance. Adnan wiped blood and sweat from his brow, chest heaving, and glanced at Nihil. Her cybernetic limbs glowed faintly, indicators of exhaustion and overload. "We did it," Adnan whispered, but even as the words left his lips, doubt gnawed at him. Containing the hybrid was only part of the solution. The Overseer, the corrupted AI guiding the planet's defenses, was still active, still a threat to anyone who dared inhabit Kepler 442b. Nihil shook her head. "No, Adnan, containment isn't enough. This creature, it's the key. And the Overseer isn't gone. It's still connected to the planetary core. If we don't sever that link, nothing here will survive." Adnan's mind raced. The hybrid's energy signatures pulsed faintly, unstable but receptive. Vorak's instincts were clear. The dragon could merge with the hybrid, not destroy it, and stabilize the planet's core. But the risks were enormous. Merging living consciousness with a semi-sentient machine could kill them all, or worse, awaken something beyond their understanding. He took a deep breath, eyes locking with Vorak. "Trust me," he thought. The dragon's response was immediate, a low, steady rumble, wings folding slightly as if acknowledging the plan. "Then we do it," Adnan said to Nihil. "We trust it. We give Kepler 442b a chance to live with us." Nihil nodded, fingers flying across her control console, rerouting power from the containment lattice to safely integrate the hybrid's core with Vorak's neural interface. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and the chamber trembled under the strain. Vorak dove. The dragon wrapped itself around the hybrid, scales interlocking with cybernetic plates. A flash of blue energy erupted as the two forms merged in a shimmering halo of light. Adnan shielded his eyes. The hybrid's mechanical growl and Vorak's roars fused into a single harmonious sound, neither entirely dragon nor machine, but something new, alive, and aware. Nihil's voice came strained through the comms. "It's adapting, the lattice is responding, the Overseer's influence is weakening." Energy surged throughout the chamber, coursing along the plasma conduits. illuminating the scrapyard outside with brilliant flashes of light. Sparks danced in the air, metal groaned, and for the first time the oppressive presence of the overseer seemed uncertain. Adnan felt a connection, a pulse, as though the planet itself was breathing. He realized that the hybrid had become more than a guardian. It was now a bridge between life and machine, a sentinel capable of guiding Kepler 442b without domination. Suddenly, a voice boomed through the chamber, deeper, older, and infinitely more powerful than anything before. You have proven yourselves humans. You have chosen not destruction, but coexistence. Kepler 442b accepts your guardianship. The energy around Vorak and the hybrid shifted. Light softened, the harsh sparks of containment dimmed, and a wave of calm swept through the chamber. The hybrid's massive form now pulsed with a serene glow, wings unfurled, sensors calm. It had chosen a new path, not one of aggression, but stewardship. Adnan exhaled, exhaustion and relief washing over him. Nihil collapsed against the console, a small, triumphant smile on her face. Vorak hovered above, letting out a low, satisfied rumble. For a long moment, no one spoke. Outside, the scrapyard no longer felt like a battlefield, but a landscape reborn. Broken metal and debris shimmered under the light of Kepler 442b's twin suns, and the air was alive with the hum of planetary energy, no longer corrupted by the overseer. Adnan stepped closer to the newly merged guardian. Its massive eyes regarded him, intelligent, aware, and trusting. He reached out, fingers brushing against a scale that shimmered with both organic warmth and mechanical precision. "We'll take care of this world together," he whispered. The hybrid, the dragon, gave a soft, resonant roar, a sound of acknowledgement and peace. Vorak flapped wings slowly, the motion calm, almost ritualistic. Nihil's cybernetic eye scanned the readings. "The core is stable, truly stable. The overseer is offline. Kepler 442b lives." Adnan allowed himself a rare smile. The planet, the dragon, the hybrid, and the people who would come to inhabit this world, all of it survived because they had chosen trust, ingenuity, and compassion over fear and destruction. Humanity had not merely survived. It had guided life itself into a new era. But even as calm settled over the scrapyard, Adnan felt a faint tremor beneath his feet. Kepler 442b was alive, unpredictable, and full of secrets. They had won this battle, but the planet held mysteries yet unexplored, guardians yet undiscovered, and perhaps threats that would one day test their courage again. He looked at Nihil, at Vorak, and at the merged dragon, feeling a swell of hope and determination. "We will be ready. Whatever comes next, we face it together." As the twin suns rose fully over the horizon, casting golden light across the reborn scrapyard, a single thought echoed in Adnan's mind. This is only the beginning. And somewhere deep within Kepler 442b's core, a pulse of life, machine, and dragon whispered a greeting, a promise, and a warning, all at once. The mechanic, the cyborg, and the dragon of Kepler 442b had become legends not through conquest, but through understanding, courage, and the simple, undeniable strength of humanity.